Appreciate you guys being here and the presentation and some of your other projects, and even though the tone gets the way it gets.
We're used to it.
But my next statement is that I live with my family about a block behind where this will be. And I think the issue of whether it's a residential neighborhood or not has sort of been brought up, but I really want to say whether or not you decide it's a residential neighborhood, it's on the edge of one. And it went from being on the edge of one to now a driveway on Pearl Street, which is where I live. And I also, I've made a decision to live there because I love this walking community that you talked about. You know, I was talking to somebody the other day about how some people visualize Middletown getting off Route 9 maybe and coming into Park. But to me, I visualize walking down to Main Street from Pearl Street. And I love that. And I really hate this, to think of the gateway to Middletown being chain stores. I know this is I just don't understand how, if we're being asked to reconceive of an area that was once residential as commercial, how the discussion of what commercial elements it's going to be comes after we agree to let it be commercial. That just, to me, I'm being asked to give so much there, and it just, I guess I just want to express that I'm a student and an employee of Wesleyan, and I also have a family in Middletown, and I go to O'Rourke's too, and I'm sure we love a lot of the same things about Middletown, but to me it makes me feel sick.
Sir in the front.
I don't see where you're afraid of the planning commission approving this for you. This is a case of spot zoning. And spot zoning, if it isn't 10 acres or more, is not allowed in Middletown.
It's a different discussion.
You're not afraid of it. I don't see where Larry McHugh has anything to say about spot zoning. I don't see where the mayor has anything to say about spot zoning.
He doesn't. It's the zoning commission.
And if the zoning commission should pass this, one lawsuit would kill it.
Okay, thank you, sir. In the back, I'm sorry. I'll get you next. You've been working hard at this.
Actually, I have a friendly question, which is
You're proud of
for
me.
information, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of talk about the linkages. That you just use that term a lot. Linkage.
It's just my opinion, right?
No, but
Apparently it's
I
a
want to
minority right
understand
now.
what that actually means. What is the linkage that you're talking about? Does that mean people are walking, or that they go to the bookstore and because they're there they'll go to
Both.
Ion, what does that mean?
Yeah, the observation I made at the outset of the meeting, and maybe you didn't hear it, was that in my view, and I apparently I'm in the minority, which is okay, been there before. In my view, the Wesleyan campus doesn't have any physical linkage to the downtown environment, or minimal physical linkage. So what I think it does is there are reasons for folks on Main Street to patronize this, and there are reasons for people from Wesleyan to patronize this. And that brings the two communities closer together. And I think the concept of having Wesleyan's name on a bookstore at this location brings the name of the university into the commercial corridors, which enhances its visibility and its familiarity with those that maybe aren't connected with the community. So from my point of view, it's a positive, and apparently enough of the folks in this room feel differently about that. Sorry about that. Yeah.
I remember we were talking at the beginning, you were talking about the need of kids in Middletown to come and buy children's books.
Right.
And I'm like a third generation toy collector. I love children's books. But you're talking about, like, you love Kid City and you love the mottos and you really love the neighborhood and you love kids and you're so familiar with the place, but you seem to lack understanding of the geography. And if you went inside Amato's, you would know they have a bookstore for kids. If you went to Kid City, you know that that's part of their fundraiser, is you used to volunteer there. And if you went down to Main Street Market, you would see that they sell a wide variety of used books in all subjects, books for adults, books for children's, books on religions, books on strange religions, books on just about everything. And they sell reused textbooks that are recent.
Right.
People can resell them.
Yeah, I appreciate your comments. I don't think it's necessary to get personal. I have a 4-year-old daughter, and I have
Oh, I'm not trying to
I have 4
get
kids in total.
personal, I'm just saying.
I go to the book section at the Mottos quite frequently.
Yeah.
My point is, we go to a real bookstore. We go to 2 places, and I live about 10 minutes south of Middletown. I go to R.J. Julia in Madison, or I go to Barnes & Noble in West Orange. And the idea that we don't have in this region a real bookstore for people to patronize, whether it's children or adults, to me is a need of the community. And I thought that this would be a way to fill the need. Again, if you
Well,
disagree, that's okay.
I guess you're talking about real as it being in a corporate store, and I think small businesses are real, so maybe that's.
I think R.J. Julia is one of the greatest independent bookstores in the country, and it's not owned by a chain, but it's a great operation with a complete assortment of books for everyone. And I think Barnes & Noble does a pretty fair job for national retailers. So, sir.
Okay, thanks. I'm the president of the student government here at Wesleyan. Just first wanted to echo the points about safety. I think as someone who has driven around to patronize Main Street, to tutor at McDonough, that Washington Street intersection is pretty bad, and I think unless you would address that, I can't see myself getting behind this proposal. So I guess it's a suggestion to make more of a good faith effort to come up with a more substantive solution to the traffic problem, because right now this proposal exacerbates it. I think you acknowledged that. So with the increased foot in vehicular traffic. So unless you can come with a way to offset that, I don't think this proposal has many legs for me. But assuming that issue is resolved, I just have a few other questions about the bookstore concept, mostly. One, about what the difference would be in the relationship between this might be also a question for Nate and Joyce, what the difference would be between the relationship between Wesleyan and the bookstore. Because currently we own the building where the bookstore is housed. This would be a fundamental difference in that the building would not be owned by Wesleyan. And so that could affect our ability to have voice in the bookstore. It might not. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. Second, to what extent, if there is a concern, acknowledge that our current bookstore is not meeting the needs that it sets out to, what other alternative options have been considered to address that? Because this is just one solution to that. I can conceive of many other ways to address that if that is a serious problem. And then my last question is, you said you're equally open to local and national change. What efforts have been made to reach out, and you've been in talks with national, but I haven't heard whether you've been in talks with local. What efforts have been made to reach out to local?
You haven't heard us talk about either. That's been mostly the audience. We're in discussions with both. In fact, tomorrow we have a presentation with a local.
That's what I was asking.
But we're not at liberty to comment on any of them until we either have signed deals or decide to go forward with them. But yes, we have discussions with both locals and nationals. I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
So that is correct. I mean, right now we do have a contract with Follett to operate the University bookstore down at Broad Street, and with this possible change in relationship, our contract would not necessarily be with the new provider. It would be with Centerplan, and they would then be the owners of the bookstore. They would also then be sort of in a relationship with us in terms of needing to provide the services that would be outlined in a contract, which, by the way, we don't have right now. So just to answer that. The other thing that I would just say is, going back, I think some people have talked about, well, why don't we move it to Main Street, other locations. Every now and then we do get a question about, oh, there's a vacant piece of property on Main Street, why doesn't the university move the bookstore down there? Most of those kind of discussions, and I'm saying these are not very long discussions, usually involve Wesleyan providing all the money for the infrastructure of the building, buying the building, operating the building, doing everything that we're kind of doing now, and that would be very, very costly. The difference between that and right now with Centerplan's proposal is that there is no additional cost to Wesleyan to move the bookstore. all of those costs are associated with Centerplan and not Wesleyan. So that's a key difference between some of these other items, suggestions that have been down the road. So, and that was one of the things that I will use the word intrigued us in terms of having a discussion with them, is that we did not have to lay out millions of dollars in order to move the bookstore, if that was something that we were looking to do.
Standing in the back, sir? Either one, yeah. No, sorry, I'll do, no, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Hi, I'm a current Wesleyan student, and my question is about the benefit that Wesleyan students receive from the bookstore. And you mentioned bringing in like food and coffee locations to the new bookstore, but we already have that at the current bookstore. And we have the Red and Black Cafe, which I think is a lot of students' favorite place to eat on campus, and they can use their meal points there. And I don't know if you could confirm this, but I've heard that if Wesleyan doesn't own the new building, which we won't be able to use our meal plan at establishments in the new location. So what I'm hearing is that we'll get a new bookstore on the other side of a more dangerous street that would bring in food establishments that we couldn't use our meal plan at. And I'm wondering, in light of that, how is moving the bookstore over there a benefit to the students?
I thought that the card would be available to use.
That's
Yeah.
I mean, we have to make a decision about whether meal plan would be there. We don't know really who's going to be operating the food services there, whether they would take even Middletown cash. Again, part of this meeting today is to get your input about what's going on. We haven't made decisions yet about what would happen if we had some food providers in there and what we would do. But you have a good point.